Anyways, welcome back to Piggy Theory, the series where we break down and theorize about the Piggy storyline. And today we're going to be talking about, is Pony immune to the infection? Now I know what a lot of you may be thinking. Pony can't be immune to the infection because he straight up tells us that he is infected in all the lab chapters, except for the hidden ending because he never got attacked and he gets to live another day. But that's not important for today's episode because we're going to be focusing on the 3 other timelines where Pony does get infected. You see, there's a small detail or mistake that can make you reconsider if Pony really was infected. You see, I've noticed something about the sky from chapters 9 to 12, which was the chapters that Pony was supposed to be infected. You see, in the docks where Pony gets attacked by Marcus, it actually shows that it takes place before sunrise, since throughout the map it's still nighttime, while the ending cutscene takes place during the daytime, which later leads us to the temple chapter, which is just daylight all the way, until we get to the camp, which we can clearly see the sky changing from daytime to nighttime, which can actually show us how long it really took to get into the lab. And actually, speaking of the lab, when we first enter it's still nighttime, but by the time we exit the lab it's already daytime. And this happens in all 5 endings, but if you've been paying attention, you have noticed that the docks and the lab chapter are about a day apart. In other words, it's been more than 24 hours since Pony was attacked in the dock. Now, why is this important? Well, it's pretty much known in the Piggy franchise that once you come in contact with Substance 128, you only have a couple hours before you turn into a full infected. And the interesting part is, you wouldn't even know until it's already too late, which I've already made a video on. Anyways, like I was saying, you only have a couple hours until you become a full infected. But the real question is, how long does it take for you to become a full infected? While we don't know for sure, we can actually get an idea of how long it takes thanks to Doggy. You see, in the first chapter, in the heist chapter, Pony was forced to give Doggy and the player a sample of Substance 128. Doggy gets infected, and we hear a bottle crack and a dog bark, and later wake up to the events of the fourth chapter. Except all these events might seem pretty fast paced, but in reality it's a lot slower if you really think about it. You see, Pony gave Doggy and the player a potion while they were sleeping, meaning that both Pony and Willow would have to wait until both Doggy and the player are asleep in order to easily give them the potion. And usually when you wake up, you don't really have a good reaction time, and most likely just zone out because of how tired you are, meaning that even though the player heard Doggy's bark and the bottle crack, the player didn't even have the energy to immediately wake up and figure out what's going on, which honestly makes sense because the average adult needs around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And since that sleep was interrupted, as well as it still being nighttime, you can assume the player got around 3 to 4 hours of sleep, meaning Doggy had around 3 hours to turn into an infected since he technically woke up first. And since he barked, that would mean that he fought off against Willow and Pony or just chased after them. So that means it will take around 3 hours for you to turn to a full infected, right? Well, not exactly. You see, now that we have an idea of how long it takes for someone to turn into an infected, only if they take a potion of Substance 128. And here's the thing, there were a total of 11 possible characters who took the potion and later became infected. Again, if you watch my videos, it makes sense. So that would mean the remaining infected around the world got infected by getting attacked by other infected, like Zizzy for example. Now, getting attacked or taking a potion are 2 completely different things in size. If you take a potion, you have more of the substance inside of your body, making the progress a lot more faster. But if you get attacked, that same process gets a lot slower because of the amount of substance inside of your body. So we can estimate that Zizzy has around 6 to 8 hours before she turns into a full infected. And again, keep in mind, this is not confirmed information, these are just estimates. But let's just say you're unlucky like Bunny, you got both scratched and took a potion. Correction, an alternate version of a potion, because Bunny was given another rush cure after the original 7 were already given out. Well, some were stolen, but you get the point. So that would mean Bunny would have around half of the amount of time to become infected. Or in other words, the hospital and the metro chapter are roughly around an hour to an hour and a half apart. And now with our newfound data, we can estimate that Pony has around triple to quadruple the amount of time of the average time to turn infected. But you may be asking, how is that even possible? Well, it's actually because Pony isn't actually a pony. You see, if you go to the Piggy Wikipedia page and go to Pony's page, you can see that Pony's species is actually a horse instead of a pony. You see, in real life, horses are actually used to create actual real life cures or medicine, because horses can create a large amount of antibiotics as well as having a really strong immune system. But anyways, now knowing that Pony is actually a horse and having a strong immune system, it makes sense why he's capable of surviving this long even after getting attacked. However, there are some questions that need to be answered. For starters, is Marcus even infected, since he was the one who attacked Pony in the docks? Well, this is actually confirmed by MiniToon in one of his videos.
Is everything okay? Uh-oh. What happened to Pony?
No!
Remember when Marcus stabbed him with the pitchfork?
Oh my gosh. Who's Marcus?
Bruh. Oh, the moose. The
Oh,
teleporting
no!
moose. The teleporting moose.
Oh my gosh.
And the docks.
Which confirms that Marcus is in fact an infected. The next question being, why is Pony's body starting to fail him? As we can see him in all 4 endings, and his body is just failing him at that point. Well, this is actually really easy to answer. You see, Pony was fighting off many infected in the camp and was helped by Willow. But in the cutscene, he was also separated from Willow the player and Tigreed and had no choice but to fight off the remaining of the infected. And as you can see in all 4 endings, he's outside of the lab instead of being inside. But we still have one last question to answer. If Pony was really immune to the infection, then how the f did Peter get infected? If you have no idea who Peter is, he's basically Pony's father. Also, we can see him as an infected in the hidden ending, since they're both at a rooftop. However, the hidden ending is actually a combination of the memories of the player, Z, Georgie, and Pony. And as you can see, almost none of them line up to what actually happened. Instead, they're shown in a different way or a more similar way of what actually happened during that time. Like Zizzy being in a safe place, or distorted Penny being at her house. Meaning that this memory of Peter didn't exactly happen, but it's very similar to what actually happened. But anyways, Peter is actually a big problem because this could debunk this entire theory. Because if Peter still ends up becoming infected, that would mean that Pony will also end up as an infected and wouldn't be immune to the infection. If it weren't for one thing, we've already covered the fact that Pony has more than enough time before he turns infected. Except there's one detail I forgot to mention, that being the side effects. You see, the infected aren't just mindless zombies, because at first when they become infected, nothing really happens besides from a couple hallucinations, as we can see in Decay. They see survivors as infected and infected as survivors, even though they themselves are infected, and sometimes they don't even know that they are the ones who are really infected until it's already too late. And another side effect is losing control over your body. So basically, if you're infected, you basically have a healing factor. Every time you get injured, Substance 128 will try to heal you and take control over the injured area. So if you get enough injuries around your body, the infection will take control over your body, making you look and act like a zombie, even though you still have your mind active. And this is something that Pony doesn't really have. When he gets attacked, he does experience some hallucinations only from the insolence, not from the infection itself, and it only lasts for like 5 minutes. And for all the docs to the lab, Pony doesn't experience or mention a single hallucination. He doesn't even look or act tired besides from like 2 moments. Well, technically 4 times, but you get the point. But also keep this in mind, the way he was moving in the camp chapter, taking out infected after infected, both with and without support. Another thing to keep in mind, this is the same motherfucker who took a pitchfork to the chest, took a 5-minute break, and walked it off like it was nothing. Well, realistically, maybe Kona bandaged him up a bit to prevent him from bleeding out. But still, the data shows that Pony is quite literally built different. So in conclusion, Pony was at one point accidentally immune to the infection for a short period of time. But anyways, I might go live next week since I'm uploading every 2 weeks now. So keep an eye out on the community page, but also comment down below what you guys think of this. Follow me on Roblox, Twitter, and TikTok. Subscribe for more Piggy Theory, and like always, tengan un buen resto de su día.